sewing our gathered skirt. This is the front piece of the maxi skirt, right? I can't show you everything because I won't be able to get it in frame. And this is where we are going to attach our pockets. Now I want my pocket to be 3.5 inches down from my waist, and if you include 1/2 inch seam allowance, that's 4 inches. So this is where I have marked. Now you get the pocket bag for the corresponding side and attach right sides together. Right sides together like that. Pin. Right. Then you sew inside of your seam allowance. So right now, all I have is a 1/2 inch seam allowance to attach it to the skirt, to the front part of the skirt. Okay. So now, as you can see, I have sewn the seam allowance to the main fabric of our skirt. Like I said before, right sides together. Now you flip this over, iron it, and sew like 1/4 of an inch down. This stops your pocket from wanting to turn out every time you put your hand inside. So I'll do that now for the two sides of the front piece of the skirt, and I'll also do it for the left and the right side of the backhand of the back piece of the skirt. So now, as you can see, I have attached the pocket bag to the skirt. See, first we sewed it down like this, then folded it this way and sewed it on. And I've done that for all 3 pieces, 1 piece for the front and 2 pieces for the back. So now the next thing I will do is attach the zipper to the back. I've also interfaced the 2 sides of the back, and I'm going to do a railroad zipper installation, which, just to save time on this video, I won't show you how to do here, but I do have a zipper series up on the channel. You can just check it out. It's how to install a railroad zipper. So I'll do this off camera and come back to you guys. Now, this is my preparation for my railroad zipper, and I just wanted to remind you guys that since we're going to have a waistband, you should leave whatever seam allowance they are going to use to attach your waistband, leave that at the top before you attach your zip. All right, it's very important. Like mine, I'm going to use 1/2 inch. I'm going to use 1/2 inch, so I will leave 1/2 inch here and start my zipper down. Okay. So now, as you can see, I have attached on the zipper. That's it open, and that's it closing. And just forget about this top bit because it's going to become seam allowance, 1/2 inch. So all this will be at the top. Now the next part is to sew on 2 rows of stitching that we are going to pull together to create our gathers, and we are going to gather it to our waist length. All right, so now this is the back, and I will pull the gathers till they are 1/2 of my waist length plus seam allowance. So if your full waist length is 30 inches, and this is the back we're dealing with. That means half of your waist length, waist circumference, sorry, is 15 inches. Then in this case, I've added half an inch seam allowance to both sides. So you add that too. So it will now be 16 inches. Now to make the gathers, after doing the 2 rows of stitching, you pick out the bobbin thread. At least I do it that way. Some people say the top thread, but no, the bobbin thread is far easier to pull on. Here are the two front threads, two top threads, and here are the two bobbin threads. So you just pull on them ever so slightly, and it has to be very gentle so that you don't break the threads. I don't think I'm doing it well with holding both. I think I'll just do it one at a time. Yeah, this a lot easier. Doing it this way is a lot easier. So I'll just do it like that. Keep on doing it like that until I have gathered everything to my waist length for the front. So as you can see, I have gathered everything. Imagine that whole length of skirt has been gathered into just this, my full waist circumference, which is 34 inches. So here is about 17 inches, here is 17 inches. Now for the next bit that we are going to do, we now have to join the side seams, okay? So it's right sides together. This is the back, this is the front. Remember, the back is the one with the zip. So right sides together, you join here, and I want you to see how I've pinned the pockets. Okay, just look at it. You pin the waistline and you sew down, get to just like one stitch after this line, and you go around whatever your seam allowance is. You go round the pockets. Go slow because this is a curve. If you go too fast, you create waves and whatnot. You go round, 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 round. Then you get back here and continue with your seam allowance all the way down to the hem of the skirt. All right? Remember, you come down this way, your seam allowance. My seam allowance now is ½ inch. I come down half an inch, come down half an inch, and you come out and sew straight down. You get to the hem of the skirt. Okay, that's what we're going to do now. So I just thought it would be a good idea to show you guys what the skirt looks like thus far. I haven't hemmed it or anything. It has deep, nice pockets. And please remember, do not cut your thread tails just yet until we have attached the lining to the skirt. Okay, so let's keep on. So now I know that everybody will be wondering, everybody has been wondering, what about the lining? What about the lining? Well, now we put aside our main fabric and come to the lining fabric. And so what you do is, this is the center back. This right here is the center back of the lining. So you measure the distance for the zip, which is 6 inches plus ½ an inch for seam allowance. So that's 6.5 inches total. And you mark it, right? So what is going to happen is we will sew down the seam allowance right down here with the largest stitch in our sewing machine. Then from here on, we sew a regular stitch. Basically, we're going to attach the lining to the zip. And the way I do this is like I'm attaching an exposed zipper, which I do have a tutorial on it. So I'm going to sew down here, right? and then cut at an angle, right? Then iron it up, open it up, and attach it to the zipper, not to the fabric. Attach it to the zip as an exposed zipper. And like I said, I have a tutorial on that. So if you just go check that out, you see exactly what I'm talking about. But I'll do mine now and get back to you guys. So I just thought I'll give you guys a quick look before I start sewing my lining onto my zipper. So you can see I have the zipper open, right? And I have folded my lining and my main fabric to this side, leaving only the zipper tape and my seam allowance. And I have also pinned it, right? If you can see here, I've pinned the the lining to the zipper, and everything on this side I've pinned it so that there's no tendency for it to move to the other side and get caught while I'm stitching. Okay, hope you guys are watching the exposed zipper tutorial. So I hope you guys can see it now. This is my exposed zipper that I've sewn. Now, one other thing to bear in mind when you're sewing on the seam, when you're sewing on the lining, the seam allowance should be facing the wrong side of your main fabric. Okay? Listen again. The seam allowance should be on the wrong side of your main fabric. So I would sew it this way, and inside here like this, so that when I flip the garment around, the finished seam is going to be on the inside. Let me show you, like here now, right? The seam allowance is on the wrong side of the fabric. See? Here's our seam allowance. So that when you look at your skirt from this side, it looks fine. There's no seam allowance. The seam allowance will be hidden the way this seam allowance is hidden. Oh, and another thing, I finished off the edge of my zip like this because, like I told you, it was too long and I cut it down to the desired length I wanted. So I just got a piece of fabric, folded it over, and zigzagged the edges, then sew the straight line across. This is just perfect to hold the zip. Nothing scratchy will touch your skin. It won't rip other things in the fabric. So remember that seam allowance goes on the inside, right? See the seam allowance? It's on the inside, so the outside looks like this.